So in today's session, what we will be doing is we will be looking into XML mode of development, like how to create XML views. Also, earlier we were using this JSON model and resource model. I told you there are two other types of model as well. One is the resource model, one is the OData model, and another one is the XML model. So we will do an example on this. Both these things, one with the sample service and other with the sample data. So the OData part, like theoretical part and how to see what and other things, I'll be explaining during this gateway. So today I'm just going to consume the service and I'm going to show you the output. So in the XML view of development, we will be constructing the XML model. It is not that if you're going for XML, you should construct this XML model. So the choice is yours. However you are getting the data, according to that particular data, you are going to construct your model. So however you are going to however you are going to get the data, based upon the data you are going to construct the model. If your data that you are receiving from the backend system, it's going to be in XML format or it is an XML document, then you create a XML model to consume it. If it is going to be a JSON data and if it is small, then you are going to consume it using JSON model. If it is a JSON data and if it is in huge volume, then you are going to consume it using OData. And for the purpose of internationalization, we use this resource model. So the choice depend upon how we are going to apply them. So it is not like some people, they understand that for XML mode of development I have to go for XML view. So that is not the case. So depending upon the backend, how you are retrieving the data, you are going to consume it in a way that fits into your system. Okay, so that is the key thing. So I will be constructing the XML model, then I will be constructing a XML view, and inside the XML view, the elements that we wanted to add, I will be showing you in the explore session, like how to get the code for that and how to write them. So basically we have seen before for identifying the code for JavaScript controls, like how to instantiate it, what are the methods that are available in the constructor summary. In the constructor summary we have seen what are the properties and aggregation that I have to pass. So that we have seen for the JavaScript controls. Now in today's session I will be showing you those things for XML controls, right? Then after that, in the XML control we will be using some of this control. I will be first building a list with the standard list item. Then after that I will be building the list with the object list item and show you how the application looks like in a Fiori if it is executing in a Fiori. Apart from that, we will do a Fiori application. That is the next part. So today this part I will do first. Then after that, the next part I will go ahead with the OData model. Then I will be using one of the complex control table and I will be explaining you the anatomy of table and how to construct the table, how to add columns to the table, and how to perform binding to the table. So that part I will be explaining you today. So let's get started. And the first thing that we have to do is we are going to construct an XML view. So what I will do is I will just go to the system and I will create a project first. Application project, and so this time I'm going to use this mobile mode of development because I'm going to show how this is going to appear in the mobile. So I'm going to use this mobile mode of development and I create it with an initial view. So I'm just going to name my view as a main, and this time I'm not going to construct a JavaScript view. Instead I'm going to construct an XML view. So I construct an XML view and I click on finish. These are the things that are going to be loaded as a part of my application. So that is what it is listing, and I click on finish to construct the project. So now if you see here, this file, earlier whenever we create a file, we used to create it with an extension main.view.js, right? But if you see here, it is of type main.view.xml. So the basic thing is that, like I have told you already, the controller file, it's always going to be JS. Only the view part, it's going to differ according to the type of development that you are going ahead with. If you're going for JS, come again?
You're recording, right?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Okay, thank you. Carry on.
Okay, so that would be like, if you're going for JavaScript mode of development, then it would be like main.view.js. If you're going for XML mode of development, it would be main.view.xml. If you're going for HTML, then it would be main.view.html, or JSON, it is going to be JSON. So Eclipse tool, it was developed in a way that it opens the each and every file in their respective editor. Whenever it is going to be a JavaScript code, it opens up in a JavaScript editor so that the syntax get highlighted. If it is an HTML file, it opens up in a HTML editor. If it is an XML file, it's open up in a XML editor. Now in this XML editor, it would be difficult for me to edit the code. So I'm used to this text editor. So I will just use the plain text editor to edit the code. Right. So like I told you already, the controller, it is always going to be the same thing, which means you are always going to have this four different types of hookup methods, and their functionality is exactly same to that of JavaScript view. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to construct an XML model. So this time, whenever we built an application so far, what we did is we always constructed our model in the view, and then we have set it to the core. So that time you may not quite understand like why I am setting it to the core. So now what I would do is I would create the model inside the controller file, then I would show you how it has been used. So I'm just uncommenting the code for onInit, and inside this onInit method I'm just going to write my code to instantiate. So the first thing that I wanted to do is I'm going to create a XML model. So I'm just naming it as model. So for XML we have a separate class which is sap.ui.model.xml.xml model. So this is the constructor summary using which you will be able to create your XML model. So the next step would be to load the XML data. So you have to call this load XML method, and you have to pass the name of the XML file to load the XML. So now we haven't have any XML files, but before that let me brief about the XML. XML stands for extended markup language. Okay, so whereas we call the HTML as a markup language, and XML, it is called as an XML markup language. So basically you take your HTML page or you take your XML file, these are the documents that are sent across the web. Now in index, if you see the HTML tags, then you can very well say that these are predefined tags that any browser can understand. So if I'm going to say head tag, any browser can understand. If I'm going to say HTML, any tag can understand. Anybody can understand, any browser can understand. So HTML are nothing but a set of predefined HTML tags that I use for the purpose of creating my document. But whereas my XML, it's not predefined document. I create a library with the elements, and I would be able to use only those particular elements to create the document. So for each and every purpose, they would say that it's a document. Now say for example, I'm just going to show you a sample document how it's look like. So I'm just creating it sample here instead of going there. XML, so version would be like 1.0. So XML is the markup tag. So for the tag you will have this XML. Now then I would say that inside this XML document I'm going to send the data in the XML document. So for the complete data that I send, I'm just naming the data as catalog. Okay, now if you see this catalog, it isn't a HTML tag, but instead I am defining it. Now the XML document, it's capable of understanding that whatever the name the tag is available, in the same name there should be an end tag for that. So that is how it is going to interpret. So the browser is capable of identifying that okay, this is an XML, which means I do not have to look for the HTML tag, but instead these are custom defined tabs that I have to interpret. So if there is a custom defined name, then I will have to look for the custom defined end interface, then I have to match it, and depending on that I have to send the data. Now say for example I have a book, so I create a tag for book, and for the book I wanted to provide the ID. So I create the XML tag ID, which is going to say 101 something. Then for the book I wanted a title, so I'm going to create a custom title tag. So title would be a simple book, then title, then description, blah blah blah. So description. Now if you look at this, the only thing that is most important is this one, because once the browser starts interpreting this, then it understands that okay, whatever is going to come next, I don't have to look it in the HTML reference, but instead I can look it on, I can try to interpret on it on my own, or I can try to reference it from the library that has been provided. Now if there are any library in which I have specified how the catalog should appear, how the book should appear, how the title should be rendered, if I am specifying it in some library, then I am going to specify that library using this XML-NS. So this is the short form of XML namespace. So this is going to tell what is the library. So by default there can be one XML namespace. If I wanted to add more and more library, then I add the library by specifying a name for that is equal to this. So now whatever the library that I'm going to specify, that library can be accessed using the keyword L, whereas the elements in this particular library it can be accessed straight away. So this part you can ignore as of now. So I just wanted to show you the sample data of how the XML would look like. So it's basic XML tags. Inside that you are going to have your custom defined tags just like that of HTML. Right. So clear till this point of time?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how my XML tag is going to come. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder called model, and inside that model I'm going to create my XML file. Okay. So 1 minute. So I have downloaded sample XML file from the internet. Okay, like which is containing the data. So that is what I'm just opening here. Now say for example here I'm not able to view the proper content. Okay. Now this is the sample XML file using which I am going to construct my model. So the data would be appearing like the XML, then that would be having the end tag. Actually this is only half of the file. Then the catalog, and that would be having the end tag, and one element it's book. It is having some of the informations like what is the author name, what is the title, what is the gender, what is the price, what is the published date, what is the description, and so on. So similarly I have some 10 records for book. So this is the data that I'm going to load. So I have this XML data. So this is how my data would be returning from the service if I am requesting it for if I'm going to request it in the XML format. So what I would do is in the load.xml file, I'm going to tell the path that is in the model folder. The file name is sample data.xml. So this is the file that you have to load, and this is the one that you have to construct the model with. So now once my model is done, I wanted to set that model to this view so that the element inside the view can get the access to the data. So typically we can do two things. One is using the core, that is calling the sap.ui.getCore functionality and set the model. Then the other one is setting it to the view. So this one I haven't explained before. Now that we are in the controller file, this keyword is going to represent the controller. Now if I wanted to get the associated view that is referenced for this particular controller, then I call this method called get view of. This is going to reference the method. In that view I am going to set the model. So this one I can do. So I can either set the model in this way so that the model that I'm setting, it's only accessible within this particular view. If I'm going to set it using the core, then it is going to accessible within all the views. The reason why I prefer this way of setting the model is because this model, they persist even after the end of our application. So mainly for the testing purposes I am doing it this way, but in real time when you are doing it, if the view is going to have the data, only you are going to pass it to the view. You are not going to unnecessarily load the memory of your application by passing it everywhere. So the reason why I am doing it is because when we are going into the debugger, what happens when I come out of this particular view, then everything get destroyed and I won't be able to see what is there in the view. But whereas if I'm going to set it to the core, then even after the execution of the application, after that also I will be able to access this core, and using the core I will be able to get the data and I will be able to analyze what is inside this. Now I'm just going to write it to the log. Right, I'm just writing it to the log, and here I'm just changing the title for now. And remember, the reason why this has came as page is because I have created a mobile application. So yesterday itself I have told you what is the importance of page as well as app. So now this is going to construct it as a page, and in the index.html by default it is going to be constructed with an app, and it is going to be displayed using the app. So since it is mobile, it was created with the page element. So I will come to this part in a while, but before that I'm just changing the title for now, and I'm going to execute this application. So we got nothing, we got some errors. Okay, I think the name would be load XML. Okay, the method name is load data, I guess. So now you can see that the model was created and it has loaded the XML file. So assume that as a resource. Now we have got our simple mobile page. So now here I can also see that I have my model written to the log. So I just wanted more information about the model. So I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to get the reference of the model from the core to analyze. So now if you see here, for this particular model, the XML model, the default binding way is two-way, and you can see it inside this particular OData, like what are the things that it has loaded. So okay, so in the children you can see that one element was loaded, which is my catalog. If you see my XML file, the sample XML file that I have added, the root is catalog. So the root tag is catalog, and so this is going to be the starting point, and in the catalog I will be having my elements, so say book or other things. So I have all these values in the XML format, right? So whatever the XML file that I have created, book with ID BK01, so book with ID BK01, then author Matthew, so author Matthew, so it has loaded my XML file inside this model. So here also the way I'm going to do the element or property binding or attribute binding, they are going to be done in the same way, right? So now let me go ahead and construct some layout based upon the XML view. So to do that, um, so first I will open this explore content and I will be explaining you few things. Now previously I have shown you this controls option, wherein you can find these controls and the constructor summary and example to do the same. So these controls, whatever you are seeing here, are JavaScript controls. You have one more section called as explore. In this explore section you basically find the information on the XML controls. So whatever you have, say for example if I wanted to create a list, then I will be finding the properties and aggregations. So earlier the properties which I have shown you there in this controls section, that was removed by SAP, but still the property section for XML it remains, because mostly they are using this XML controls. So working in XML controls would be very useful, because you have this plenty of examples for them. So you have what are the different ways I can use the list. So SAP has created plenty of samples for that. Now if you wanted, you can just go ahead and click on this and you can see the example. So this is how the list is going to be appear. So the heading is product for the list, and these are the content. So if you wanted to know how they have created this, then you can click on the show code button, then you can view it. In case if you are trying out all of this example, then what you can do is you can probably download this, you can just load them into your application, then you can just see how the things are being created over here, right? So now I have to explain the XML view itself. So before that I will just take a JavaScript view as well. In JavaScript view, we are instantiating using this class, and we are also passing the controller reference. So the first thing that method that would get executed is the controller name, because the view need the controller reference. Only if it has the controller reference, only then it will be able to access the methods and attributes in the controller. So if you take an XML view, then you can find that now the first XML tag that was defined was core. So remember, the core is the central component. So the core is accessible without any libraries. So the core is the XML tag and view is the name of the tag. Okay. Then, like I have told you, whatever the library that I wanted to add, I would add it along with the name to that, and I would be having only one tag as a default tag. So coming back to the point, so the first thing that we did was the controller name. So to this view tag, I have to pass the name of the controller. So I can get the name of the controller here, which is exercise12.main. So I am passing the controller name as exercise12.main. So the controller name is the first property. Then other thing is, what is the default control for this particular, what is the default library? Say for example, if I'm going to use this page, now this page has to come from some library. So if you remember in the sample data that I have shown you, that in the XML namespace that I would be adding the library as how to interpret the particular element. So now if I'm going to interpret the particular page element inside this page, then the explanation for this particular page has to be written somewhere. It has to be written in some library. Only if I'm going to specify that particular library, only then I will be able to access that particular element and I can interpret it. Now by default, if you see here, there would be only one XML namespace attribute without any naming addition to that. Whereas if you see other things, you have this naming addition separated by colon as this is for core library. MVC represent the MVC library, and XML HTML represent the HTML library. So if you take this page, you can find that the XML NS library is the default one, like I have told you, and the XML NS one, it is coming from the mobile library. So XML NS is loading the mobile library, which means whatever is the control that are coming inside the mobile library, that I would be able to access it directly. Suppose if I'm going to add one more library called XML NS namespace layout is equal to sap.uy.layout. Then if I wanted to access the vertical layout, then I have to specify it as with the name layout dot vertical layout. So this is how I have to access the library with the name, if I am going to provide it with the name. But whereas in this library, which is the default library, I don't have to specify this name. Suppose if I wanted to access something from MVC, then I have to access it as MVC colon then name of the element. So this is how the system understand that, okay, this is the XML tag which I have to load from this respective library. This is the XML tag which I have to load from this respective library. Now if I don't specify anything, any name, then it is going to be by default as the root one, which means I don't have to provide any extension to access them. So this one we will again see when we are constructing this application. Also, there are some aggregation rules, like within a page I can add a control or I can add a layout, I can add some other controls if I may wanted, but I may not be able to add certain elements, like the element that are coming on the top of the hierarchy. Say for example, I may not be able to add a shell element, okay, because shell is also a container. So I create a page and inside the page I may not be able to add the shell element. So I'm just saying it for an example. So only if the page is supporting the content, only then I can add this content tag. If not, I will not be able to add the content tag. Now say for example, inside the content I'm going to construct a form. Now only if this form is supporting the content element, then only I can add this content tag, and inside that content I can write my code. So basically there are no place where these informations would be provided. So this one you will get to know by yourself when you are doing more and more practice on the XML tags. So clear till this point of time, can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Now within the content tag, I'm going to create my list element. Okay. So if you see here, the list tag is represented as list, which is the capital LIST. So I'm just creating a list tag. So let me give space to this list tag, and this is going to have a ending list tag, right? Then the next thing, now the list tag, it takes two important parameters. So since this is a HTML tag, I can use the equal to here to represent the equivalent symbol. Only in the JavaScript object I will be using this colon to represent equal to, whereas inside this HTML I will be able to use the equal to itself. So this has two important properties. One is header text and another one is items. So this is just like a plain HTML code. This is one of the reason why I wanted to take HTML class before. So this is the HTML. This is the HTML tag. Here in this case, it is an XML tag that is coming from sap.m library. Header text is an attribute, and in this attribute, I'm going to say products. Then I'm going to add one more attribute, which is items. Now I have to tell the system that from where I have to load the item. Now if you see here, the book is the aggregation for me. So catalog is the root and book is the aggregation for me. So I can directly specify book as the root, because within the book only I am going to have the 0th book, first book, second book, third book, fourth book, fifth book instance. So within the catalog I have only one structure that is containing the book. So that I cannot be considered as a aggregate function. So here the book is going to have first book, second book, third book, fourth book and fifth book. So I consider my book here as the root. So I have to pass the root from where I have to load the items from. So I specify the curly braces syntax for performing binding. Using the slash symbol, I specify the what I have to load. So my intention is to load the books. So books would be the, it's a book. So book is the root library. Then the next thing is I have created list. Now in the drop down you have noticed that we created the drop down first, then we have created items for the drop down, and then we have added the item to the drop down. In a similar way here I'm going to create a list, and then for the list I'm going to create the list item. So basically there are two types of list item that we can add. So that information also you can get it from the explore. So when you say list, you have this standard list item. Sorry, I just said few things. Actually these are all the list items that you can add: object list item, standard list item, input list item, feed list item, display list item, custom list item. So you can try it on your own. I'm just going to show you how to use this standard list item as well as the object list item. So standard list item, first I will go ahead with standard list item. So inside the list function I can aggregate the standard list item. So I would write a end tag for this. Right. So I have created my standard list item. So this standard list item, it takes one important property which is known as title. So for the title, I'm going to specify the name of the book. So I place a curly braces syntax. Now if you go ahead and see here, inside the book, the name of the book is represented as the title. So now since I have binded the list control to this particular book aggregate, now inside this book aggregate I can directly specify the relative path which I have shown you in the aggregation method. So I can directly specify it. So I do not need any slash or something. I can directly specify the value. So I would just go ahead and specify the value as title. I don't have to enter the complete path book slash title. I would just directly specify the path. Now I'm just going to go ahead and refresh my application. Now if I refresh my application, you will be able to notice that the title that I have created for the list is products, and you can see that the list item has been created. Now these list items are not in a selectable mode. So to make it selectable, you have to make their type as active. So once you make the type as active, then this is going to be in a selectable mode. Now we can see that this is getting selected. So in order to handle this list, I can handle it by attaching the press event. So when I press, I say that handle item select. So this is the method that I wanted to handle. So basically, unlike JavaScript view, in JavaScript view you have that provision to directly write the coding inside this particular view itself, because this is also a JS file which allowed you to write your functions and define it right away here. But whereas this XML view, it doesn't support you to write the codings over here, which means whatever you are going to do in the coding perspective, it is always going to point to the controller file, so that the controller file, it's by default accessible. So if I'm going to specify the name of the method, then it is going to look for the method name in the controller only. So handle item select. So alert so if I can see that the item has been triggered and I have handled it. Basically this list item we will be using in the mobile app. So I just show you now. If my application is going to be executed in iPhone 6, then this is how the list is going to be displayed. Okay, so this is how we are going to see the list. Right, so this is the initial page where you will be seeing this. So if you want a more detail on midnight train, then when you click on this midnight train, then we will navigate to the next page which is containing the details related to this. So those things we will be doing at the later stage while we are doing the Fiori application. So that would complete your complete application. So this example I just wanted to explain you the XML view concept. So clear till this point of time?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing that I would go ahead is, instead of standard list item, they have created one more list item called as object list item. So this object list item, what it does is, it is going to give your appearance just like the way it is going to appear in Fiori applications. So instead of standard list item, I'm just replacing it with object list item. So now I'm just going to give the title as the title as we have given already. Then I'm just going to make this type as active in order to make it selectable. Then I'm going to make this press as handle item select. So till this point there is nothing new with the nothing new compared to the standard list item. So whatever we have seen so far, they are just the same thing, and the appearance also is going to be the same one. But the thing is that in the standard list item, the limitations are that you can only specify minimum information like what is the title. Okay, but what happens is, this gives me this because due to this in the mobile application, what happens, there would be a lot of navigations. So if I wanted to go this see this XML developer guide, even if I wanted to see like minimum information, I have to navigate inside this, I have to go inside this, I have to see it, I have to come back, then I have to go into the next one, again I have to come back, again I have to go inside the next one. So except the title, I won't be able to display anything over here. Right, so that is one of the limitation that we have with the standard list item. But as a mobile application, I wanted it to display at least a minimum information to the user. Like say for example, if the sales order is being displayed, at least what is the amount of the sales order and what is the currency in which they have to pay. At least that information I have to provide, so that when he sees the sales order number, okay, for this sales order he has to pay this much amount, for this sales order he has to pay this much amount, he will be able to get more of the information by the first look itself. Only for the detailed look he has to go to the navigation. So the object list item, it was constructed in a way that it would be able to show you maximum information in the first page itself. So here are some of the additional properties. So if you go here and if you select this object list item, and you will be able to find them. So here you can find the properties informations, like what are the things that you can pause. So I can pause the icon. I have told you how to pause the icon usage. Then I can pause this number unit. Then I can pause something called number. So this is the first thing that I'm going to pause. So I'm just going to pause the number attribute. So the number attribute, it's basically it is going to display the amount in the application. So in this application, I don't think I think I have the amount. So right next to the title, I'm going to show the amount. So let me make it in bigger screen. I will explain you the regions. So this is going to be the title region. Here in the top I will have the number region, and below that I will be having the number unit, and I will have the title description entered below. If I'm going to add some attributes and other things, say for example first status, then the status would be displayed here and the title would be moved to the left hand side, right hand side. And if I'm going to add some attributes, those attributes going to be displayed right below the thing. So for example, it's going to be like this. So if this is one list item, I'm going to have my title, number unit, so description, it would be displayed completely from here if I'm not using the first status. If I'm using the first status, then my description would move here, then the first status would be displayed here. Then if I'm going to add additional attributes, those attributes are listed over here. So in this way, I would be able to display most of the information within the single list item itself. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the number, and for number what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this price. So I have a price and I'm going to display that price. So I create the binding relationship as the price. Now if you see, I must be able to see the number along with the list. So you can see this is how it appears in the mobile. So you can see that it displays the number along with that. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is the next property you can explore, which would be number unit. So the number unit is the one that is going to be displayed beneath this. Say for example, if I'm going to give this value as INR for example, then it is going to display INR beneath this. Okay, so it is going to display INR. So since this is screen is smaller, I'm just going to remove this mobile and I'm going to show it in the bigger screen itself. So later on when you're doing it on your own, you can test it. So you can see that this is showing the unit for the number. So since I did not have the currency in the sample data, so I'm just writing it straight away there. Or say for example, I can make it as a generate. I think I will also be able to specify the genre as well here. Okay, it did not accept it as a binding. GNRE. Now this is supposed to show me my genre.
Okay.
That is computer, fantasy, whatever is the type of the application that it is showing as the genre. Then the next thing that I would like to show about this object list item is icon you are already familiar with. So that is the number state is going to be based. Say for example, when we are going to display the purchase order, say sales order or something. So if this is like overdue, then I may indicate in red color. If it is like paid, I will be indicating in green color. So for that purpose, we will be using the formatter function that I will be doing it in a separate class, and we will also do the same in the Fury application also. And what are the other things that I wanted to show is title. So these are the properties, and aggregations are attributes, first status, second status. I think there is one other thing that I can show you here, which is description. Okay, fine. I think it is description. I'm not sure about the name. Okay, that is not the name. Okay, fine. So I will just go ahead with the next attribute. I'm not able to recall that attribute name. So we have displayed the properties. Now inside this, I'm going to display the aggregations. So the first aggregation that I'm going to display is this one, the object first status. Say for example, I'm going to display the first status. So I create a tag for first status and I create the end tag for the same. So if you're not familiar like how to aggregate this, then you can go to the sample, then you can look at the sample code and do it. So the first status, inside the first status, I am going to use this object status. Object status. And for this, I'm just going to specify the text for the object status as the description. Text as description from the model. So description would be saying that in-depth look at creating this application. So if I refresh this application, then it should show me the description as well. Usually we don't provide the description in the front page. Actually, there is something else that would be coming over here. I'm not able to recall that name. So the description, it appears on the right. Basically, we won't be providing the description and other things. And I will just make it to INR for better look. It's okay, let it be. Then the first status. Then after that, I can add the attributes that I wanted. So attributes, I can add as many as attribute that I wanted. So the next aggregation would be attributes, and inside this object attributes, sorry, it's attribute. So if you do not want to write the end tag, then you can directly specify this line and you can close it right away. Guys, you are understanding, or I'm just going to say this. Okay, here they have performed binding for two things. Fine. I'm just going to specify the information on author on the first attribute, and in the second attribute I'm going to specify the information on publish date. Right. So in the object list item, I have specified the properties for the object list item. Then I have created some of the aggregations. Now this application, if I execute, this is going to give me a lot of information in the front page itself. Now if I wanted more detailed item, then I can go ahead and I can see that right away in the by navigating to the next page. So once again I will put it in a mobile iPhone 6 Plus. So this is how it is going to appear in the mobile, in the front page. Okay, so you got it. Hello. Hello. Ram Imran.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So shall I continue or?
I think we should stop now. And one more thing, Srini.
Yeah.
We are displaying the products right here.
Yes.
The XML, midnight train.
Yes.
So
Yes.
where these data is coming from?
I have shown you right the XML file. This one. The XML file which I
Yeah,
have
can you show me
extracted.
once again?
So I'll show it in the notepad. So this is one row. This is the second row. Now the data I have received in the XML format. So I'm constructing the XML model to consume this and I am displaying it.
Okay. So this XML file you have placed in one of the folders, right?
Yes,
In the
I'm consuming from
application?
that particular folder. Basically it will be coming from the URL in real-time applications.
In real time you can fetch data at runtime.
Yeah. You can just call the service and the service will give you the data in this format and it will be loaded into the model.
Okay.
Okay, so that there is nothing
So we
to do.
will be showing that.
Here I have specified the URL path for the folder location where the model data is. Okay. Instead of this, you will be specifying
Okay.
the URL, service URL.
Okay.
Okay, that is the only difference.
Achha.
We see.
Instead of that one, instead of that highlighted area, we will specify the URL.
Yeah, basically this is what you are referencing here is you are referencing the source where the XML file is available. Now I have hard coded the
Okay.
XML value and I have referenced the source. In real time,
Okay.
you would be calling the service and the service will be loading the data.
Okay.
Okay, it will be loading the data into the model instance. That is the difference.
Okay.
Understood? There is
Yeah.
nothing more in this. Okay. Okay, fine. And guys, one more thing. I am not sure if I would be available tomorrow. I'm going to my hometown. If Friday is holiday, I will go tomorrow. Otherwise, I will go on Friday. So what I will do is I will do a self-recording today. In case if I'm not available tomorrow, then I will share you that recording. Is that okay?
Student can come up, you can come and take the class, not a problem.
Okay.
You can come
Because
back
holiday
and
would be
take the
best.
class.
That's what I was saying. I will be on traveling at that
No,
time.
not a problem. Okay.
Okay, fine. Let me see what I can do. Okay.
Yeah, one more Srini, one more doubt.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, tell me.
Actually now we are displaying data from back end to front end.
Yes.
Yes. So is there any, means, in real time we will be sending data from front end to back end also, right?
Yes.
So will you be showing that one?
Yeah, I will show that.
Okay. Like editing something in front end
Yeah, I will
and
show
going
that.
and saving in back end.
I will show that.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Okay then. Okay. Then we will see tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Good night.
Good night.